right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We'll just give another minute for more people to dial in. If you can see and hear me clearly, can you just type hi in the chat box just so I know that you're here with me? So the chat box is at the bottom right of your screen. If you can hear me, just type hi so I know it works. Great, I see some responses. Thank you. Okay, great. I see that a lot of you can hear me fine, so that's perfect. All right, so a very warm welcome to everyone joining us at today's webinar. My name is Carlene. I am the Marketing Manager at CIPD Asia and your MC for this session. Today's topic is planning your career for 2023, where we'll talk about what HR skills are in demand, how to get noticed by employers, or even advance in your role. So to kick off today's session, please join me in welcoming Belina Lim, Regional Director at CIPD Asia, to give her opening remarks. Belina, please.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you all for taking time to join us. As Colleen has shared, today our topic is around planning your career. So, as we all know, the pandemic has actually changed the way job seeker view their career and how organization hire. So there's actually a very obvious culture shift in every industry, discipline, market, or even the level of seniority. So at CIPD, we are at the leading front when it comes to setting up international standards of excellence in HR. We developed our profession map in collaboration with 19,000 people professions worldwide. And this has actually allowed us to understand the needs and what it requires to create a progressive culture and how to support individuals, companies for their respective growth. So before we start today, I'm sure you have some ideas of what you want and some questions regarding your career journey. So joining me today is three distinct panelists. So I'll hand the time back to Colleen to introduce the panelists. Colleen, please.
Thank you, Belina. I would now like to introduce our esteemed panelists who will be sharing their insights today. Panelists, could you turn on your cameras, please? So first up, we have Keith Watson, who is the director at 360 HR Solutions and CIPD Qualifications Tutor. So Keith's qualifications include LLM Employment Law and Practice and Chartered Fellow of CIPD. So Keith has worked in the financial services sector from 2006 in senior HR roles prior to setting up his own consultancy in 2016, and he has been a tutor since 2007. Keith is actively involved with the CIPD in various capacities and is currently a member of the Professional Standards Panel and a member of the Qualifications Advisory Group. In addition to working in the UK, Keith has also worked for or tutored in Africa, India, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Next, we have Siti Farina Sheikh Mohammed. Farina is currently the head of Leaders Develop Leaders at Petronas Leadership Center. She's a talent development specialist in L&D, a chartered member of CIPD, as well as a certified coach. Her experience in Petronas includes facilitating the leadership team and senior leaders in various countries around the world. Farina is passionate about creating the best learning experience for leaders to coach and facilitate others while developing themselves. And our third panelist is Yamini Pillay. Yamini heads the contracting division as well as HR and business support division at Robert Walters. She joined Robert Walters in 2013 as a consultant, and her professional approach, coupled with strong interpersonal skills, has enabled her to develop good relationships with clients, garner trust from new companies, and ultimately climb the ranks to a current role. Hailing from Malaysia, Yamini also speaks fluent English, Tamil, and Malay. And our moderator for today is Belina, whom you have met. So as many of you are aware, we are giving away exclusive virtual career guidance sessions to 12 lucky attendees today. So we'll share how to win the session at the end of the webinar, so do stay with us till the end to find out how. So before I hand over the time to Belina, I would just like to launch a couple of poll questions so we can understand today's audience better. The first question that we are going to ask you would be, which best describes your current role? So you will see a poll question appearing on the side of your screen. Please let us know by voting. Are you a student who's new to the workforce? Are you a specialist, a middle manager, or are you a C-suite leader? So if you could just take a few seconds and let us know what most applies to you right now. All right, I think most of you would have voted already, so could we please see the results? Okay, so we can see that we have a good majority of you who are in middle management, some of you C-suite leaders, some of you specialists, and some of you who are new to the workforce. So it's a good mix of people in the audience today. We have the second question, which is, which best describes your current career plan? So this helps us to understand who are the people in our audience today and whether, are you actively looking for a new role elsewhere? Are you not looking but open to opportunities? Are you looking to advance within your current organization? Or have you not thought about it? Which is totally fine. We just want to know what best describes your current career plan. So do vote and let us know. Right, so let's have a look at the results. Which best describes your current role? We can see that quite a few of you are actively looking, some are not looking, but some are looking to advance within your current organization. So thanks for voting, and I will now invite Belina to kick off the panel discussion. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to submit them in the chat box at the bottom right of your screen. I'll hand over to Belina now. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. So I can see from the poll that there's a good percentage of you that are from the middle management, and as well as you're also looking at advancing your career. So that's a good starting point for our conversation. So I think before we start that, what we can do is that I would like to invite the panelists to share in terms of their own personal journey when it comes to career planning. What are some of the opportunities and what are some of the challenges faced? So from my screen, I could see Keith as the first person. Keith, could I have you to lead us in the conversation?
Yeah, happy to do that. My career planning has essentially never quite gone to plan. So I've intended to do many things, done some, but often ended up doing others. Now, that might sound a little bit haphazard. However, what I would emphasize is the benefit of being open to different types of opportunities. So there are people who will decide what they want to do and will end up doing it. The downside of that, in my view, is you miss out on other things which you may actually enjoy more and you may be better at. I'll give you one quick example because I don't want to take up the whole hour. 16, 17 years ago, I was working very happily in financial services, had a really quite a good job, and my previous CIPD tutor asked me what I was doing the following weekend. I said, well, oddly enough, nothing. I've just finished my dissertation for my master's degree. I'm doing nothing at all. She said, well, would you like to shadow me at a workshop doing CIPD employment law level 7? Like, yeah, that sounds quite good, because I was quite interested in employment law. So I flew down to Birmingham, which isn't terribly far in the UK, arrived on Friday night to discover that my former tutor, Tony, her children were not well and she wasn't attending the workshop, which left me to run a workshop for 15 students on level 7 employment law, never having seen the slides for 2 days. And we had 172 slides. Now, the week before, I had no intention, no thought, no plan ever to tutor on the CIPD qualification. I've now been doing it and thoroughly enjoying it for the last 17 years. So make your plans flexible. Don't shut yourself off. Don't put yourself into small pigeonholes. Try and do different things. I mean, I even spent a year working in internal audit. Never wanted to be an auditor, but the experience taught me a lot when it comes to policy writing and looking at risk management. So be open.
Thank you. How about Yamini?
Hi everyone. So it was quite interesting to know that there's people who are just looking for their first start in their career journey. So my when I was thinking about this, I said, how would I position this? And it led me back to how I actually ended up where I am right now, which is quite interesting. So after I finished school, I had zero idea in terms of what I wanted to pursue, even in terms of my degree, right? But I ended up taking up my bachelor's degree in communications. And even after I graduated from university, I still had zero clue on what I wanted to pursue as a profession. Obviously coming from an Asian country, Indian parents, they were like, why don't you just be what, typically we all end up being, lawyers, doctors, and whatever not. But I had no passion whatsoever in pursuing any of those. But what I did know is I wanted to pursue a career that involved people. And my initial passion was always to become a psychologist. Hence, it was kind of natural for me, I guess, that I wanted to be in a people-facing job, which is exactly what I've ended up doing at the moment, which is recruitment. But just a bit of a background in terms of how I ended up here. So I started my first official job in a customer service role for a financial institution. And shortly after that, I got the opportunity to join a management trainee program with Standard Chartered Bank. It was always a good, at that time, 20 years ago, there were a lot of these management training programs that were being available in big, global MNC companies, predominantly within banking. So I got that opportunity. And after 1 year, I was then moved to an L&D division, which is where I got my first exposure into the HR field. And in this role, I, of course, got some involvement in recruitment as well. And when I then had the opportunity to move to Singapore, I actually made a conscious decision to move into recruitment because I've already completed my journey in L&D and I wanted to get a little bit more involved in the other spectrum of the HR field. And I made a conscious decision to then move into recruitment. And it pretty much just tied back my aspiration of being in a people-facing role, advising people now on their career journey and helping people achieve their own aspirations. So, tying back to what Keith mentioned, right? Especially at such a young age back then, we get so nervous trying to figure out, what we want to do, and we doubt ourselves in terms of why is it that we don't know what we want to do, right? But I think what's really good is giving yourself that opportunity to explore different aspects, find what really interests you, because I think being in a job, you need to first have interest in wanting to do that job, right? Because if you don't really like what you're doing, even at the get-go, it's not going to sustain you. So I always made sure I had a theme, and that theme was people. And I just kind of navigated my career to ensure that it tied back to my aspiration and my passion, which is the people fronting side of things. So yeah, that was pretty much my journey. Yeah. Now I'm in recruitment after 9+ years. Who would have thought? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. How about Farina?
Yeah, hi. Interesting to hear from Keith and Yamini, right? Okay. I am in Petronas Leadership Center now. February next year is going to be my 10th year. All right. So going back on how did I get here, so I just want to share that my paper qualification is totally different from what I'm currently doing. I graduated with Bachelor of Mathematics and Associate of Computer Science from Purdue University, US. I did my master's in mathematics education because at that particular time, I want to do something in the education line. And when I joined Open University Malaysia, it's actually affirmed, hey, this is what I want to do with adult learners. And I started my PhD. Along 1.5 years after I started, then I got a job offer from Petronas. All right. And I believe like it is like a calling for me because when I joined PLC, that it opened my eyes into coaching, into how we can develop other people. And that is where my passion is. And I totally agree with Keith and Yamini, right? allow for agility to happen. Allow, you do not know what's going to come to you, but allow for the opportunity to come so that you can venture and try that out.
Yeah. So is there any point in time where you feel that the career that you've chosen is right for you, or how do you define whether a career is actually right for you?
For me, Belina, I can start, right?
Yes. Yeah.
For me, it's like, am I doing what I'm passionate about? Okay. Am I good at it? So that's my first purpose. And is that what the organization needs or what the world needs for me? And the third one, can I get reward for that? So for me, if all these three purpose aligns with what I'm currently doing, yes, I can say that, I'm happy. That's where I am now.
How about Keith and Yamini?
Very, very similar. But fundamentally, if I want to get out of bed in the morning, I'm in the right job. If I don't want to get out of bed, I'm in the wrong one. But no, fundamentally, no, am I making an impact? Am I making a difference? If I'm not making a difference, I'm not making an impact, there is no point. And from an extrinsic perspective, then no, certainly, no, am I being rewarded in a way which I consider fair? Now, having worked in financial services, having worked in the charity sector, all these things are relative. So extrinsic reward is not an absolute. It depends on where I'm working at the time. Having worked in oil and gas, what I expect is a lot more than if I'm working in third with an NGO. So it's getting into the context when it comes to extrinsic reward, but fundamentally, no, am I making a difference? Am I doing good, or am I simply, to coin a phrase, am I simply digging holes and filling them up again? If that's the case, time to move on.
Yeah. Okay. How about Yamini?
Well, in my side, I would say I'm in a sales job at the end of the day. And when you are involved in a sales job, resilience is key, right? So sometimes then when you carve out, going back to your question, which is you in a sales job, I would like to think along the way you're constantly questioning, is this the right job for me? Because it's all about highs and lows every time. It's a roller coaster ride, literally every other day. But when I look back, at the interest, which is the theme I mentioned about, which is the people facing, because in this job, I initially started off as a consultant 9.5 years ago, and I wanted to just purely focus on being an individual biller, right? Because it's a sales job, very monetary driven. It's quite direct in terms of the results and the outcome that you're going to achieve. And however, after 4 years, I was given the opportunity to step up into a managerial position. Now, not something that I actually wanted to move into because I had a lot of self-doubt in terms of, can I actually manage people, right? But at that juncture in my career, it was something that was laid out for me. And I thought about it from an aspect of, I've had some background in training, I have passion for people. It's an opportunity to step into management. And also going back to our initial comment about giving yourself the opportunity, right? Trying different things, because you never know what you're gonna unlock unless you actually get yourself involved in something different. So I stepped into management and I've never looked back. I've now realized, and I always say this to my management team over the years that I've been a manager, I am probably positioned to be a better manager than actually a biller, right? And I realized it was just something that came most natural to me. And at the same time, it made me feel very centered and authentic in terms of who I am as an individual. What can I contribute to the team? What can I embark from a learning perspective? And that was most important for me in realizing that recruitment, and especially a people manager role, was eventually the right path. People always used to question that, how do you do recruitment, agency recruitment? It's all about sales, people come and go. But I think when you look back at that passion piece, when you see the results, when you see your people groom and do well, because at the end of the day, it's also you're molding someone's career. And in the job of recruitment, you're also enabling someone achieve their career aspiration. It's a very rewarding feeling at the end of the day. So I guess after a while, I realized that it was the right path for me. It wasn't after a day or two. Took a couple of years, no doubt. Yeah.
So I think this is actually thank you very much. I think this is a very insightful sharing. So I could hear that, you know, from your own personal journey, one thing that is common across is to have the kind of passion to be agile, to have the flexibility to change your plan to fit into the kind of opportunity that is actually available, as well as to know what is it that is that you are passionate about. So I think on this note, perhaps at this point, I would like to put a poll question to the people out there to basically, how confident are you in terms of charting your own career pathway? Okay, let's see. Okay, we can see from the poll is quite a majority of you actually indicated that you're somewhat confident. So maybe let me at this point look at perhaps we can ask Yamini, who's in the recruitment field, to share some trends as well as skills and competency that one should actually look at in terms of charting their career pathway. Yamini?
Okay, so I think, tying back to interest, first you need to ask yourself, what is it that actually interests you? If you have a specific passion in what you're trying to achieve within the HR space, in specific. So for example, if you talk about skills and skills that are in demand at the moment, there's obviously been a trend, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, given the pandemic. So for example, extensive growth across business has called for the demand for talent acquisition, talent management specialists, in terms of managing, volume hiring. And we do foresee this trend definitely continuing going into 2023, right? Another aspect within HR field that has, boomed up has been a huge demand for HR business partners. Business partnering people with strong analytical and strategic experience. So business partnering can be skewed quite in various different directions, right? And people can think that it's a business partnering role, but when you talk to clients and companies right now, they actually want to know what is the strategic work that you have done as a business partner. It's no longer operational aspect. It's no longer just purely on stakeholder management, but they want someone who can think a little bit outside the box, someone who can, help organizations spearhead like succession planning, for example, change management, leadership, L&D programs. And this is all in line with businesses that are now looking to purely focus on talent development, right? Because after pandemic, it's all about people aspect, retaining your best talent. So that is why business partners talent management has been a focus, because it's no longer a situation where people leave and your mindset is all about, fine, I'll just find a replacement. No, it's all about retaining your best talent, because the market has boomed up, extensively, especially in the HR field. Everyone, if you're a good candidate and you're not getting calls, it's unusual. If you're getting calls, it means you are a good candidate, right? Because you have the skill set, you have the experience, and the best companies want the best candidates. But at the same time, how do companies then retain their best talent? So that has become a focus, right? Another area which has been a highlight is, of course, ED&I, sorry, being embedded into workplace culture. So that's been obviously a focus, where we have seen many organizations build up specialist teams to drive these initiatives to promote equality, sense of belonging and inclusion. So there has been a demand for diversity and inclusion specialists as well. So you can see a lot of organizations build this team, and they get people involved. They ask people who wants to volunteer to be part of this D&I team, for example. And there are talents out there who take the initiative to then sign up on courses in line with, ED&I, so they can become a certified practitioner as well, and someone with extensive knowledge in how to then drive these initiatives in organizations. So I'll say those were the three main areas I feel will be quite high in demand, and will continue being a trend moving into, in the next 2 to 3 years at least.
Okay, thank you. Keith, do you see similar trend in the market?
Right. It's much better if I take myself off mute before I speak. Yes, the market trends appear to be very similar, and certainly, when it comes to EDI, that is a major focus in virtually every jurisdiction. Now, whilst EDI takes different forms depending on the jurisdiction you're working in, nonetheless, there is a major focus on that, and one which is not, in my view, likely to change anytime soon. I think it's very much a growing area. And if I was to suggest to anybody, and if they want to build their skill set and knowledge on a particular area, the two that I'd suggest is EDI and employee well-being.
Okay.
Which, no matter which country you're in, that's where we're focusing. And obviously, well-being speaks to retention, because if we look after employees, they stay. If we don't, they don't.
Okay, thank you. So, Farina, from the employer's perspective, do you see similar trend? And what are some of the skill set as well as competency do you look out for when actually you're developing your talents?
I do agree to what Yamani and Keith is saying. I just want to add on that, right? So if we just look back, I just need to reflect on the set of the background context of Petronas, all right? Due to the global changes that we currently experience, Petronas is an oil and gas company. We need to pivot our portfolio recently, all right? What that means is that we are actually running our core business, and at the same time having to change our business at the same time. What it means is that we need to enhance our current capabilities of our talents at this point of time, but also yet develop new capabilities for our talents, right? So what it comes into that, okay, we talk about competency is the new currency. So for us, actually, we need talents who can energize teams and the stakeholder. So that brings into what Keith has mentioned, the well-being. Part of energize our team and stakeholder means one of it is to be an empathetic leaders. All right, leaders who actually show cares and concern about their people, the well-being of their people. So we have that. We also need talents who can actually decide at pace. Okay, that is very important for us here, and also grow. Grow for themselves, grow for their teams, and grow for the organization. So that is our G, and our last to execute. We need talents who actually can execute for superior performance. So that actually comes with our leadership competencies that come with us right now at this point of time. So that actually is an add-on to what Yamani has mentioned earlier. All right. And again, I want to emphasize empathy is not a skill, a nice to have skill. It is more strategic imperative right now to ensure that the innovation comes in, to ensure that we can boost productivity and ensure the sense of belonging for our people. That is what we emphasize.
Okay, so would you be able to share with us what are some of the leadership development roadmaps that your organization has actually come up with to support the kind of journey that you want to develop the talents?
Okay. For us, Petronas Leadership Center, we actually established to equip talents, right, for the right competencies as well as to strengthen their leadership skills. We follow the 70-20-10 L&D model. I think all of us are rather familiar with that, right? So we focus on the programs that we deliver for our people. We deliver leadership or either the competency focus, we call it, for our people. We have it either physically or online at our campus in PLC here. And then we have a coaching academy to support actually our talents, because our leadership development is not one size fits all. We do need the coaching to support them. But the one thing that I can say we are proud of is having the leaders develop leaders. What we do is actually we bring our senior leaders into the classroom, all right, or at the workplace for them to inspire, to create an impact to our future leaders, actually. And what happens during that time, which we find it most impactful and beneficial, the fact that our leaders can share their own experiences for the sake of our new leaders. They share success stories, but most importantly, they also share the lesson learned, because that is what our future leaders need to hear as well. And that is what we call LDL, or Leaders Develop Leaders.
Okay, thank you, Farina. So for Keith and Yamini, in terms of the kind of developing the talents within your organization, would you have the same similar kind of roadmap, or would it be something that's different?
In the organisations that I've been working with over the last 5-6 years, there is a great degree of similarity, certainly in relation to 70-20-10. However, the one element or one focus which may be slightly different is we've been encouraging leaders and training them in how to coach. So very much the emphasis is, in fact, I've got 2 sessions next week locally, which is one for the board and one for the senior management team, simply to go over coaching skills. Because we now live in a world where people don't want to be told what to do. They don't respond to being told what to do. We need to start engaging with people, and coaching, not necessarily a formal coaching qualification, but coaching methodology has helped a lot with that. And very, very much the focus moving on from that is communication. Great focus on communicating effectively, because if we communicate effectively, life is good. If we don't, and too often we don't, then that's why we have so many different issues in all organisations. So that's very much been the only nuance as to what's been said.
Okay. Yamini, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think quite similar as well, as most organizations will have, their own set of, learning and development programs internally. So we do have a couple as well, directed at, the consultant levels, and then we have one a few catered ones for leadership team as well, management offsites. But what we do quite often is actually we carry out bite-sized learnings online, which is done by our internal L&D team, and it focuses on various topics, especially in the last 2 years. With COVID, it's very much focused on people development. How do you deal with stress? How do you keep yourself motivated in such a tiring and trying environment? And it's just to keep people abreast in terms of not just from the day-to-day job, but it's just more of the well-being, tying back to well-being. How do you
Yes.
keep people's mindset in check in order for them to also deliver at work? So it's, I think that is always should be the focus, should always be the root cause when someone is doing well or not doing well.
Yeah.
Let's go back to basics, which is the person in the right position, in the right
Yeah.
mindset to do the job well? So L&D, as what I mentioned, talent management, L&D has really been a focus in the last 2 to 3 years, because it is all about the people aspect engagement,
Yeah.
which then will deliver results in people's performance.
Yeah. So what I hear here is that not only we're attracting new talents into the organization, but what is also very important is to create a kind of talent journey within the organization and taking care of each talent within the organization. So on at this point, what I'll do is that I'll throw in another poll question to all of you on which factor is actually most important to you when you're choosing a job. So I suppose while we are waiting for the poll results to come up, perhaps I can invite Keith to, from your individual perspective, what are some of your intrinsic and as well as an intrinsic motivation when you're actually planning your career?
Quite simply, my intrinsic motivation is wanting to do well, wanting to do my best, to be in an environment where I can actually achieve and people encourage me to achieve. And I don't think I'm by any means unique. I think it's part of the human condition. We all want to be good at something. Nobody wakes up in the morning, jumps out of bed, and wants to go and do a bad day's work. But no, we do want to do well. Now, stilling it down a little, I want to make a difference. I want my time, not in work, my time on this planet, to have done some good. Now, we can do that through lots of tiny steps, but that really covers my intrinsic motivation. Make an impact, do some good. Make it a better place for having spent the time there, for somebody, and perhaps for many. Extrinsically, yes, like everybody else, I like to be rewarded. I like money. I like to have a comfortable lifestyle. I am no different to anybody else. But again, that's very much in context. I've worked in financial services, I've worked in oil and gas, I've worked in the third sector, as I've mentioned. Now, what is a good wage or a good day rate, now I'm self-employed, varies considerably. And the extrinsic motivation, certainly from a monetary perspective, it's not an absolute in my view. So it's very much a sign of how somebody values me. Now, that can be $1,000 a day, or it can be $100 a day, depending on where I'm working and what and who I'm working for. So it is a relative value, but that's perhaps I'm now an age in life where if you asked me that question 30 years ago, I'd only want $1,000 a day because I wouldn't be able to afford to work for 100.
Yeah.
But that may well be a life stage sign.
So yeah, so I think from the poll result, we can see that a lot of for organizations' culture as well as development opportunities is equally important when somebody is actually choosing a job. So I think for Farina and Yamini, what are some of your motivation when you're actually planning your career?
For me, Yamini, can I start first? Organization culture is very important, all right? Because I think for whatever Keith has mentioned, I just want to add organization culture is very important because that actually allows to see whether it aligns with your values or not.
Mm.
And when you find that it aligns with your value, then you would contribute wholeheartedly. That's where the authenticity comes in. That's where you feel genuine and you can be the best of your work because you know that you have that satisfaction feeling in you.
Mm.
So truly agree with that. And I also know for the development opportunities for me, there was one place that I worked, but I felt that I couldn't go anywhere after that because it's just like, you're there. But I think for me, where I am currently right now, Petronas is giving a lot of opportunities that one can have. So yes, I would say that organizational culture and development opportunities are those two important things that matters to me. And that's where I share with my children as well, something for them to look forward to.
Mm. Okay, thank you. And Yamini?
Yeah, very much agreeing to what both the panelists, what Farina mentioned as well. I've been in Robert Walters for 9+ years. Next year in August, I lock in my 10th year. I still, till today, when I go meet a client, when they ask, when you do a brief introduction on how long you've been in the business, especially when they see you're a senior person in the business, when they hear I've been in the business for 9+ years, they will always say, wow, how?
Yeah.
How is always the first question that comes out of their mouth. And truth be told, even I'm still shocked every day, right? Because in agency recruitment, especially in Singapore, there's 3,000+ different recruitment agencies. The more experience you get, you're constantly being headhunted, correct? My theory has been very simple, and this ties back so closely to organization culture, people, values, right? My theory is if I'm going to move to another company to do the exact same job, why am I moving? So
Yeah.
then I ask myself, what has actually kept me here? And it's the people aspect. The values of the company needs to be aligned with your own personal values as well. I think that's very important. Of course, people do, embark on different journeys after a couple of years for monetary purpose, personal development. I've been quite blessed here with Robert Walters, and that's why we have quite a robust training program, career pathway, which is very clear. And I always encourage my clients and also internally to always have stay conversations, right? Stay conversations is so important because you want to find out from your people what actually motivates them and how can you help them unlock their potential.
Yes.
In their current day-to-day job, it may not flourish, but when you have these conversations to find out what they would like to embark on, or if you as a manager, as their hiring manager, you can see that potential in them, it's also our responsibility to put them in that platform to unlock that potential. And that's very important. Here in agency recruitment, we have a saying, as at a management level, we want to hire people who are better than us, actually, not people who are not better than us, because it's a confidence, right? It's not easy because, especially when you reach a level, you tend to be a bit of a control freak, in layman terms. You want to make sure that everything is in place. And it's also a journey for ourselves in enabling someone to take
Yes.
that same pathway as you. But the goal is to actually hire someone who is going to do the job better than you, so that at the end of the day, when it's time for you to move on, your legacy is in good hands.
Yes.
So, that's why that conversation along the way with your people is very important. And this all ties back to talent retention and, upskilling your best talent.
Yes, and I think that that's actually very true. We want to actually have people that's actually better than us, so that we create the kind of journey that we can actually leave legacy behind. And I think for individual, I think one of the things that they need to actually look at is to have the kind of learning mindset, is lifelong learning, so
Lifelong
that
learning.
they can actually progress and have any opportunity that come by as an opportunity to learn and to develop. So I think that's actually very true. So I think the next question I have is for Keith. What are some of the positive impact to your career after becoming a CIPD member?
Oh, we could be here for quite some time. I shall try to be brief. Perhaps, so my CIPD journey started a few decades ago. I'm not going to say how long, but a few. Now, since doing my CIPD qualification, I have been able, with that qualification, to obtain roles which I wouldn't have just been able to obtain previously. And I've also been able to tutor on the qualification, which I've done part-time now for, I think, 17 years. And
Yeah.
that has been the most wonderful and rewarding experience as you take people through the formal qualification journey. And I've been so fortunate to be able to do that essentially globally. Pre-pandemic, doing workshops face-to-face, post-pandemic, providing support online. So having my CIPD qualification has allowed me to assist not hundreds, but literally thousands of other HR professionals on the qualification journey. And that may not be the most financially lucrative aspect of my work, but is certainly by a distance been the most rewarding. That is, for me, from a career perspective, the one massive plus that I've been able to send other people on their CIPD qualification journey, and still in touch with very many of them, some of whom are senior directors here, there, and everywhere. And it's wonderful to see how they themselves have been able to progress.
And I suppose the journey that you have as a CIPD after obtaining the CIPD membership is one that you learn throughout the journey, as well as one that you actually engage with all the community, the HR community worldwide.
I was going to say, I really ought not to say this, but I will. It's okay, there's only 100 people listening. I'm sure you can all keep a secret. But I have advocated for many years when it comes to HR and indeed CIPD conferences. And I've been fortunate enough to be at the CIPD conference in the UK many, many times. I've spoken on a regular basis at HR Expo in Dubai. But the one main benefit of going to conferences is simply networking with fellow professionals.
Yep.
Now, they may have speakers, most of whom will be better than me as a speaker, but what they say is of a little interest, but networking with professionals, which CIPD membership allows you to do, is where you do the real learning. You learn where you want to work, and more importantly, where you don't. And you learn that the way you do things is not the only way they can be done. And that's particularly important if you're stuck in a large organization where you end up with the mentality that we do things right and have no knowledge of how anybody else can do things.
Yes, so, definitely. Thank you. So I think I'm reminded that I need to open the floor up to questions that we have from for people who have joined us in this session today. So, but before I do that, one last question for Yamini. So, what are some advice you would give us when it comes to identifying the gaps in current skill set versus the desired role that somebody wants to actually go into, and how can we go about building that kind of competency to attain for that particular role?
Okay, I think, you know, it can be in the simplest form first on how you can identify what are the gaps in your skill set, right? And the simplest form can be just doing a feedback session with your current line manager. In line with your career progression, find out what are the tools that you require to move from point A to point B in your current company, or if you're looking to then embark in a new journey. Let's say if you are looking to progress yourself from a mid to senior level position, what are those skill sets that you actually require? So for example, if you're looking to move into a people manager position, you need to look into probably enrolling into leadership courses, people management courses as a first step, right? We've also seen a trend in a lot of HR professionals enrolling in data analytics, project management courses, for example, also to upskill themselves to be a bit more agile and adaptable, because we are moving into an era of, HR digitalization, transformation, and these are the some of the areas that's going to make you stand out a little bit different from the other HR professional. Like in Singapore, for example, we have a huge pool of Singaporean talent in the HR field. What is going to make you stand out? What is the new skills that you can bring to the organization to in line with how they want to grow their business? So it's also doing a bit of research in terms of the type of industry you want to move into. What are they looking for in the talent? And then enrolling yourself and getting yourself upskilled in line with that. Of course, speaking to career coaches will also help. We do encourage a lot of people to speak to, specific career coaches. We know a lot of senior people end up, engaging in this, which enables that as well. So I would say these are predominantly, some of the areas that, we can look at in terms of how you can identify your gaps and what are the tools, what are the platforms that you can use to kind of, attain those skills at the end of the day as well.
Okay, thank you. Farina, do you have anything to add?
No, I just love what Yamani says. I would say coaching. The person needs coaching to actually, the coaches can be their mirrors, and also to provide them feedback, like what kind of competencies do they need in order for them to move on. And that is just beautiful. And getting that feedback, if you can, from your peers, from your bosses, from those who are working with you, that would be excellent as well. That's my take. Yeah.
Thank you. Keith?
The only thing I'd add, and I fully agree with everything that's been said, is make use of the tools available to you on the CIPD website. You use the profession map. Use the profession map, make use of the tools, identify your strengths, identify your development areas, and then focus on the development areas which are going to get you to where you want to be. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how junior or how senior you are, using these tools will come up with those development areas. You can't do it all at the same time.
Okay.
So, no, do the analysis, see where you are, and then decide which bits you want to develop and at which point. But at the end of the day, not sadly but gladly, we never stop developing.
Yes. Continuous, lifelong developing and learning.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
And no, I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and it's amazing what I don't know and she does.
Yes. And learning from your kids is one good area to know what is the latest trend as well.
Oh yeah. At age 6, she knows absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I'm learning lots.
That's good.
Learning lots.
Okay, so at this point, I'll open the floor up to questions from the attendees. So do share with us if you have any burning questions that you would like to ask our panelists.
Lena, we have actually got quite a few questions. You can take a look at the document.
Okay. So, first of all, first question is, are there any advice for someone who is actually looking for a career switch into HR, but have little relevant experience?
I guess I'll
Yes.
take this. So that's a very common question that we get from candidates in the market. When you want to make a career switch, and when they reach out to recruiters, the first will be like, Yami, how do I get into this field with zero experience? Let's just take HR as an example here. So the first thing I always ask candidate is, what have you done? As in what courses, what kind of any form of education in line with HR have you looked into, right? So unfortunately, we are in a market, in an aggressive market, especially right now, where companies are always looking for experienced people. And when I mean experience, I mean relevant experience. Correct? So that's always the tricky part. You have really good talent out there, people who can probably learn way better on the job by giving them, but they need to be given the opportunity, right? But there is a bit of a mindset also with companies, and there's no right or wrong to this. There is a reason why someone wants to hire someone with experience, relevant experience, because they need someone to hit the ground running. But at the same time, you also have employers, or they're in a better position to actually hire someone and train them on the spot, train them on the job, right? So you do get a good balance. But what my advice would be is to upskill yourself. Enroll in courses. Going back to our conversation earlier, you need to have some sort of relevant certification in order to actually at least have the knowledge. If you don't have the hands-on skill set, at least have the knowledge and the qualification to kind of back you up in that sense. So that will be a first step that you need to look into.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I have a lot of questions. I have more than 10 questions here. So let me pick. I am mindful of time, so let me pick a couple more questions. So one of them is, what do you think is the biggest challenge for employee in 2023? Anyone?
I think the biggest challenge for employees in 2023 it's not a single challenge. It will be the sustainability of the organisations in the current economic climate. And now, ultimately, well, the world economy is quite different to what it was 3 years ago. Organisations will be looking to become more efficient. And the biggest threat to employees is that the organisation may not be able to make that journey. And I do anticipate in a number of sectors, a degree of downsizing will be ongoing. Now, at the end of the day, we have done this before, we will do it again. I can recall the financial crash of 2008, 2009. I think we're probably in a not dissimilar position. So I think that will be the biggest challenge.
Okay. So one last question is, what are the kind of advice that you give to those who are actually trying to build their network to develop their career?
Can I go with that?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, as mentioned by Keith, right? Go into the community that you have, right? So let's say you're passionate about coaching, then go, be part of the community of coaching, because that will open up opportunities, right? Development, the networking with people. If you want to go into learning and development, we have CIPD here. Be part of that community. And that would actually help you grow, not just in terms of your networking, but also your expertise, and going to see what is it out there that maybe is not in your mind at this point of time. So that's my brief answer to that, Belina. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so any more to add before I pass the time back to Caroline?
I just would like to, to invite all, right? For those who are actually searching, what is it that you want to do? Probably you want to do self-coaching, seeing like, what do you see yourself in perhaps doing in 3 years' time? And where do you want to be, you think in that 3 years' time, and how you want to get there. So that will kind of be of like planning for you, at least to start somewhere, or to start with incremental steps. That's just my last say.
Thank you. Thank you for the advice. So we want to thank all the panelists for your valuable insights and advice that you're giving to all our attendees today. So it's definitely a very thought-provoking session, and I think one of the key takeaway is that I definitely got from this session is about lifelong learning, is about taking opportunities and being agile. Okay, so on this note, I'll pass the time to Caroline to wrap up.
All right, thank you to our panelists for your sharing, and I am sure the audience has picked up lots of great insights. We're so sorry due to time, we couldn't answer every questions, but they were all great questions. So thank you everyone for being with us today. And as promised, this is how you can score a virtual career guidance session with CIPD. So we're actually conducting a survey to find out how the people profession has been affected by the current economic climate, and your inputs can actually help us shape the report that we are producing. So simply complete the survey now to participate in our lucky draw. Scan the QR code on the screen, or you can access the link. 12 lucky respondents will be selected for the one-to-one career guidance session with a CIPD expert, and winners will be notified via email. So all survey participants will also receive a one-time 15% discount code for our short courses and be among the first to receive the report once launched. So again, simply just scan the QR code on the screen, or you can access the link, which I will put in the chat right now. Okay, it's in the chat now. So simply click on the link, or scan the QR code, submit the survey, and then you'll be in the running to win a one-to-one virtual career guidance session. And with that, we have truly come to the end of today's webinar. We hope this session has been useful for you. There will be a follow-up email with a webinar feedback form. So do let us know what you enjoyed about the webinar, how we can improve, and what other content you'd like to see from us. Thank you again to all our panelists, Belina, Keith, Farina, Yamini, and everyone who has joined us today. We hope to see you again at our future events. Have a great day ahead. Bye.